November has been crazy for all of us. It's been insane. We had some guests planned, and then we realized that we really need to catch up on some of these important things. So we're going to go ahead and give you a sort of a feedback loop on what we have discussed till now, and then move forward. Especially in the new year, we're going to plan more and more intelligence coming from right at the level of you know, deployment and development. So, as usual, a few updates. President Donald J. Trump actually unveils Genesis mission to accelerate AI for scientific discovery. And the idea is that within this, AI and crypto needs to be the front and center for our future. I'm not going to talk about crypto and how US is going to move towards crypto itself. Is a field that I am interested in, but honestly, I'm not that of an expert. But as you see, closed loop AI experimentation integrates national world-class supercomputers, and this is a priority from the second time it's coming. We talked about the first time as well. And then of course goes through the purpose, etc. We're going to put all of these links inside our newsletter as well, summarize it for you guys to make sure that you understand that AI is a freaking national priority moving forward. A brief history of digital twin technology. This is extremely well written article. I read it. I briefly. I know. I think probably you can talk more about it today as well, explaining digital twins today, Harvey, and explaining its impact on healthcare more so when we have some time. Another article that does 2D extraction from 3D echocardiogram. We tried it actually and have some mixed results. But the beauty of this is that what we want to say is that we at Save Life AI can try all of these open source and then potentially be able to commercialize them. Again, the big news was Gemini 3 Pro was released, which is one of the largest, most important sort of discovery, and I'm going to show you why. Google also released their first IDE. IDE is essentially idea is environment for development. Those who use Cursor, others, etc. Actually, let me just show you. I just don't want to give away too much of my intellectual property here. But you're gonna love this, by the way, Ed. So this is anti-gravity that I'm using to actually create documents one by one. And this is like the strategy document that I created after looking at these libraries and everything. After looking at these libraries and everything. Then I have Coder, which is a Chinese model, by the way, which I actually look at time to time. And then this is Cursor. So now, officially, I have to use three different IDE environments, and I make sure that how the libraries are summarized, continue to act on it, and then this is how we're going to generate like a knowledge graph or anything. So it's insane that the amount of choice that I have, and then of course, it is insane that how it is getting sort of easier. I mean, it is not easy per se, but it is where we are as far as that is concerned. Um, there you go. So this is Google's new IDE. Can you guys see my screen? Okay, there you
Yeah.
go. And then of course we have, before I go into humanities last exam, where did the Opus go? So Opus actually also released it. Now the interesting thing about these large language models that are what we call frontier models that are coming out, the thing that is left, because we have been improving the benchmarks as we go. So the benchmarks are getting saturated as we speak, and you're going to see that within this Gemini 3 Pro, which is the latest model from Google, is at 38.3, which is significantly beating GPT-5. And then they did not write Opus, which is odd, but they should write Opus over here. And then you should see that how insane it is as far as development is concerned. Because literally this time last year, we were saying, well, GPT-4 is here. What are we going to do next? And it's insane that we are actually trying to do an open, memo from Sam Altman from OpenAI actually talks about now Gemini being one of the biggest threat to their dominance. And the reason behind it is that Google has the whole ecosystem. They own YouTube, they own Gmail, they own, Google, Studios, everything. So the idea is that it is insane time. And as a matter of fact, if you really want to read about this more, when AI passes the test, look out, AI expert says. So humanity's last exam is essentially one of the most hard benchmarks, and we are inching close to beating it as well. And I don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, I think Harvey's going to go in and upload his consciousness through phantom space inside a computer in space itself. Right, Harvey? That's
Yep.
the future. You're going to have a digital twin of Harvey sitting in with humanity's last exam done. This is a very interesting paper from NVIDIA. It's called Tool Orchestrator. And what idea was that the GPT-5 cost is 0.24 while Orchestrator is 0.13. And then what it does is that it actually does a complete orchestration. It's only an 8 billion model. And what it does is that it really orchestrates reasoning, tool calling, tool response, everything, and then generates an answer. It can even call different LLMs like GPT-5 when it needs to, and then no need at times. So this as an orchestrator sitting. I mean, do you guys remember when we were talking about orchestrator from Microsoft, and then the orchestrator was costing like $1,700 per case, and we said that it may not be ideal. This at 8 billion model is going to be something that we're going to be able to see very good. And this is from University of Hong Kong and NVIDIA. Okay, I'm going to tell you, by the way, that this is something that I'm telling, but there's so many other updates that I had to just remove. American Hospital Association wrote to FDA that they really need to improve a artificial intelligence medical device performance in real world. So by the way, this is what we're going to talk about, especially when we talk about when we both at the AI Med this year. Let me just go through this. Manus actually added projects. Harvey, I think there's a little bit of background noise coming here. So introducing Manus projects. I know Harvey likes GenSpark. I actually do like Manus, but this Harvey is going to be really nice to really, able to control from a project level, organize everything. I don't know. I still feel like organizing is very hard, but this might itself take care of it. This is very interesting from Hugging Face Transformers version 5. Again, they really unified and basically decoupled how we can use different models in real time. Closing the performance gap. This is another good idea that you can see that that originally sustainable sentences 94%, 97%. So we are really closing the gap here in terms of at least chest X-ray. And then evaluating strategies for synthesizing clinical for multimodal AI. And this is what we're going. This is, again, we have been talking about it for Save Life AI forever, because we actually built our backend from just not clinical notes and summarization. We built it with the radiology. And we are finally seeing in some research that this is where the future is going to be. And again, medical imaging segmentation using multi-factor recalibration. Again, that's a very good technique. I would recommend anyone who's building something like this to really do that. One of the interesting things that actually Anthropic found is that 4.6 million contract of blockchain was exploited using AI agents. So just to let you know that AI agents are not here for just good of the world, can be used significantly nefariously. And then of course, Claude Opus was released. Now, again, coming back to this, we actually all were at AI Met for the first time, as you can see. The handsome bachelor is in the middle, but then Ed was actually there as well, and then me, and then AM at 25. We had a lot of blasts. We had a lot of talks. Ed was, hosting 2 panels. So did I. Harvey actually was at places that I can't even count. And then, of course, Harvey's TED Talk is going to be released, I think, next Sunday officially, or is it released on?
It's just released, so I'll share the link on the group chat.
Perfect. And then we're going to add it in the newsletter, and we'll share it with everyone. So coming back to today's, again, I think the best way to go forward is to actually go through this and agenda wise, and then, get your opinion. So Harvey, starting with you, you're an ABIM course graduate. So am I. I think I did the basic. Did you do the advanced one yet, or no?
Yeah, I did all and got all 3 certificates, and then I'm faculty now with them, or guest faculty.
I don't know how you do. Do you actually sleep, dude?
My digital twin goes there, and we can go there in a little bit, and he takes care of things for me. So
Again, so just to let you know, this was again very thanks to Anthony Chang. I mean, the first book was Deep Medicine by Eric Topol. That was my inspiration. Then I found Anthony Chang and ABIM. This was the start of my entrepreneurship journey. Understanding how AI is so important is going to change the world, and we have been talking about this. But those who have not done it, I would highly recommend to take that course. Me, Harvey, and Ed are working very hard to bring this course to Dallas. We don't know when, but we will be working extremely hard to have something here in Dallas for our people here in Dallas too, so that it is available to multiple people. Okay. Now, let's go to keynote stage, leading AI driven transformation. I know you were not there, you were flying at that time, Ed, but when you are looking at Hole's enormous potential, what was your key takeaways, or what was your the whole year think about it? I just want to bring these topics from this because those are excellently written. What, Ed, would you recommend three key learnings this year and the next, and how to sort of strategize for the next year with leading AI driven transformation?
Yeah, well, I think one is to subscribe and listen to this podcast.
Love it.
No, for
I
sure.
love it.
That was not pre-planned, and I don't mean it as a a commercial, but it's true. There's not a lot of strong routine content out there yet. And so I love, Junaid, what you're doing. You're organizing us on a weekly basis, and we're really pushing the envelope. I mean, you're always presenting the latest and greatest coming out. I learn a lot. I'm part of this podcast team, and I sit here and I just learn a lot just listening and watching and all the discovery that you're doing. So the first thing is you've got to get in the game, and whether it's this podcast or some other sources, you've got to get in the game. The second thing I learned from being there and reflecting on the year is you've got to utilize the tools yourself. So it's great that you listen, that you subscribe to this podcast or other sort of learnings. But if you're not exploring yourself, you're not really learning, right? It's one thing we all know to listen and to observe, but it's next level if you actually do something. So everyone can grab something to learn. The example that you were giving on how you would create a strategy document, that's an example, but it could be more simple for some of the audience who haven't taken that step yet. It's as simple as, hey, the next time you create a PowerPoint, leverage some sort of AI tool. And that's really the third thing is, what's in your toolbox, and it should always be changing. I think that's the best way. So you might find a couple of applications. There's my favorite. We all have our favorites that we use, but don't get stuck on those. Always look for something new. What else is out there leading the way? So those are sort of my three takeaways. And I think if you do that, right, if you're always learning, have your go-to sources to always learn, then you're applying these things, and then you're mixing the two together, like you're not only learning but you're applying and executing. I think that's the best thing. Those are the three takeaways from me.
Harvey, three takeaways in when you heard, and especially you were on the stage so much. By the way, I couldn't find much of your pictures, so you just send it to me, and then we'll put it in the. I'm sorry, I should have taken pictures. I was just intent on listening on to you. So next time I'm gonna remember taking more pictures. But anyways, three very basic one-liners. If you are in an institution, imaging center, clinic, urgent care, emergency department, through this whole conference and the whole year, what are your three takeaways?
The first one, reflect on Martek's law, meaning our technology is exponential and our organizations, and I extract it down to our individuality, can be very logarithmic, meaning the way we do things. And the take home point is when those two become a huge gap, then a disruption happens. So apply that at your work, apply that to yourself. And so that leads to the extract point of you need to know these tools, or else another company or organization will know them better and they will take over your company. And that is the truth. That will happen. Second point, it's look at these tools like riding a bike. The more you understand them, the more you're using them, the more efficient you'll be and the more comfortable you'll be. And then the rate limiting step is our culture, ourselves. if you don't know what you don't know, you don't know how to use these tools. And so my analogy is look back. Look back when you first were looked at ChatGPT and your initial thoughts and how you used ChatGPT, and now reflect on how you're using those today. And then ask yourself what changed. And the answer is the culture, the understanding, the education of that tool, and now you're accepting and doing things that you wouldn't do back then. So those are my 3 points.
Well said. So 3 points for me. First of all, it was a very good introduction. And then from a startup perspective, just solve for pain points and then build solutions that are scalable and modular. So we developed CliniOps, which is our ISAMD, and then we have RedOps, which is our RadioView AI, and then we created a whole data operations system which connects with any PACS, DICOM, EHR, or large data exchange platforms. And then we are creating new value-oriented systems, which could be continuous opportunity monitoring, AI clinical analysis, AI quality assurance, whatever that case may be. And the one that we are building in the process of building is acute care neurology, in which everything, both imaging findings, QA, virtual care, or physical care, legal operations, whatever the verification needs to be, etc., and specific node navigators that are classic for this. So this is, and then we are of course creating an AI chat summary, which is going to be very important as we go along. And this is not only, again, applicable to one pain point. This is a system that we built that can be used for personal injury while you're doing QA extraction for motor vehicle accident. So my thought process was that first it was an internal sort of thank you for doing it, Junaid, that you have to build systems that can perform in an ever-changing world. That's what Ed said and Harvey said. Secondly, how would the software ever change? And that is what we built here at Save Life AI. And what we are trying to do over here is, they said, that constant learning. I mean, you will not believe that how much I have to read in terms of research papers, everything, blogs, newsletters, etc. And you have to be constantly learning. Uh, this is very interesting, and we have talked about this before: human and machine finding purpose in the age of AI. And this is something that we are actually for the first time seeing. Just to give you an example, AWS, Amazon is going to, I think, fire 30,000 people and expecting 60,000 people from all of their, fulfillment centers, and they're going to use robotics and AI to do this. And that is an example outside of healthcare. So, Harvey, I'm going to start with you. What are the examples in which there will be significant job displacement due to healthcare and because of AI? What are the other career pathways, and why is it important for people to learn this too? Because as we always say, that physicians who know AI will replace physicians who do not know AI. So to expand on these, including what we learned at AI Med and throughout the year.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Because this is $1 million question, right? What can we do? And I call it the great shift. We must shift the way we think, the way we do things, and what will be replaced. Just to give you a quick example, like today, especially doctors see it, is do we really need a scribe? Do we need to pay another human being to scribe for us? The answer is no. That job's gone. Do we need that position, or do we need translators? The answer is like no. Do we need to pay a service to have a whole team of hundreds of people ready to answer a phone to translate? No. And so, do I encourage learning another language? That's when I get in trouble. I would say I personally don't think you need that other language, but the neuroplasticity of understanding another language, speaking another language, develops another part of your brain that gives you a different skill set. Not that you'll be using directly the translating, but that neuroplasticity and the way your brain is thinking helps and explains. So, how to prepare for the future? It's more like creating that, tapping into that creativity, that how you think, your personality, because at the end of the day, it's human. How does Harvey think? How does he start businesses? How does he integrate all this knowledge, i.e., I speak Spanish, into creating something that maybe you guys cannot? And then that's my secret sauce. So, how to move forward and what positions, it's really understanding yourself and how to use these tools. And so, I think that is the key so that you are better and more efficient than the next person and that your employer will want you. The reason I'm the chief AI officer for Space, Phantom Space, the company behind me, is one is my personality, how I see things, and how I can create and help the company grow efficiently using this technology. Had I not had that skill set, and had I stayed in the traditional doctor box saying, hey, here's medicine and this is what I can do, I would still be in that box. I would not have this opportunity. And so, for everybody out there, I'm telling you, learn these tools, understand, but don't be scared of them. Instead, combine them. This week, I met an attorney, and she was telling me, Harvey, I'm really scared of AI and I don't like it. And I said to her, don't worry about this. Let's leverage your skill set. Let's leverage both and use, let me teach you how to use AI to make you the best lawyer out there to beat out your competition. So, sorry about being long. Ed, what do you think?
Well, that's funny you talk about the lawyer one. I actually used AI recently, so I didn't have to use a lawyer actually. So yeah, it's amazing.
I'll make sure she doesn't watch this
And
episode.
Right. I mean, like if I was a bigger business, I would still have as a backstop, kind of like with physicians, clinicians. I would have as a backstop someone to review things. But for me, as a small business, you know, I was able to just drop the contract in AI and get all this feedback and make appropriate changes. And so I did this in 15 minutes myself, and I felt confident enough that for my type of business that, and it's not complicated, that I actually displaced that utilization, just being gut honest. So I know we don't want to, we're very careful not to step on people's toes, but at the same time, we got to be super honest. I mean, I literally did that last week. I think it was Thanksgiving week, where I went through this contract. So the other areas, it's the obvious ones that everyone probably thinks about: billing and coding. There's definitely going to be display. We've been doing this 10, 15 years ago. I recall one health system in New York was so good at this that they had to stop because the unions were stopping our ability to leverage AI or automation of any sort, intelligent automation, because it was taking away jobs. So we're going to see more of that. So those are the sort of obvious ones. But the other controversial ones, we talked about lawyers, because oftentimes we think, oh, the white collar type jobs are going to be, safer. I just think we have to modify, right? That was your message there, Harvey, is you have to learn these tools and then modify what your expertise is. Otherwise, if you put your head in the sand, it's not going to be good for you. So the more controversial one, or more appropriate one for our discussion, and you've heard me say this before, I think primary care as we know it today will be completely displaced. So it doesn't mean that primary care docs will no longer exist. No, we already have a shortage. It just means that their role is going to be modified, is going to be changed in what they're doing. And again, there's so many people that when we talk about this, that are arms crossed and legs crossed and saying no. But if you look at what's happening already and how other industries are being disintermediated, it's going to happen in healthcare. We had a futurist on; she was so amazing. If you didn't see that episode, to all of our followers, you need to find that episode. I think it was 2 weeks ago. We had a futurist on, and I think she was spot on. What are hospitals going to be? Okay, Junaid, I'm going like full on controversial here. First I talk about PCP, but let's talk about hospitals. Why the hospitals would be completely displaced? Hospitals will be for sick care, for ICU, for something that very high acute type care, not the way they're used today, right? So everything's going to change. So, and I think this is going to happen sooner than later. So how's that for?
You're correct. You're absolutely right. Again, the whole point of this is led by a chief digital officer, chief technology officer, whatever, Ed Marks. a physician, Harvey Castro, who has done an investor, built massive healthcare businesses, urgent care, and now in Phantom Space, and me actually building and then funding and investors and my own startup, etc. What I realize is that this is again the great shift that what Harvey said of our time, and you need to learn these skills. The difference between the dot com, and I know everyone calls about the bubble. Yes, everything also always is a bubble initially. But then during that bubble, you get AWS, Google, and Microsoft, and all of these massive companies. And by the way, just to remind everyone, Google did not become Google by itself. YouTube was a separate company that was acquired by Google. Google, in its lifespan, has acquired 300 plus companies. So you do have to understand that even small startups are going to become large or get absorbed by large companies. Either way, that is the case. The idea is that we have changed it. I was actually part of this panel with Arlen about exploring non-clinical career pathways for clinicians. And again, Harvey right now sitting at Phantom Space is a primary example. Me being a startup founder, you need to understand that physicians are amazing, resilient people, and you need to upskill again. And that is not too hard for us because believe me, we've gone through medical school, residency, fellowship, and think of it that you're doing another fellowship and start finding a good purpose because this will be something you can impact. The reason I started Save Life AI was I wanted to save lives at a software scale. What does that mean is that the installation is going to be at the hundreds, thousands, for example, sites. We're going to automate this thing. So it is a great purpose with AI that you can also go through. Um, I feel like there was a little bit less so, Harvey, in terms of nursing. Would you say that nursing is a little behind in terms of even as simple as AI scribe? And how were we gonna? Because they are, to be honest with you, more important than I'm just being honest. And I know some physicians gonna hate me for it, but I cannot run an ICU without my nurses. And they're superb, amazing human beings. But again, Harvey, what would your thought would be? How do we bring in nursing, occupational therapists, physical therapists? By the way, my AI scribe works for even a lactation nurse. But just letting you know, like, how do you bring all of these different amazing providers, again, representing 20% of GDP of USA, into the fold of AI?
I really, Dr. Chang's a good friend of mine, and I love that has this course. And I think number one is the education, right? I always repeat myself. We don't know what we don't know. So by going by these courses and we understand now, we start seeing. I really think it's elevating the AI IQ. The more we understand this AI, the better, and the more likely we're going to start using these tools. So I really think going to these courses, and I'm glad we're trying our best to bring this course to Dallas. I really think that's really the key for me to see that other professions adapt more. And when we're doing a class this weekend, and when I look at the registration who's there, there's a lot of non-doctors, which excites me to see, nurses and physical therapists and everything else. So that's good. Ed, what do you think, bud?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a few leaders out there that we know in nursing and that are sort of pioneering and leading the way. And I think we need a lot more. What happens, and it's not dissimilar to what we're talking about with PCP and physicians, is we get used to a certain way of doing things, and the infrastructure behind us is a way of doing things. And so imagine if you're a nurse and you have all these great ideas and you get this, you could lead these courses. You go back to your traditional hospital, and what are you going to do? Hey, we're changing this completely. Then you're going to get unions involved. And so unions are, as we know, I think we've probably covered some articles in the past, unions kind of get involved. Wait, time out. You can't do this. Danger, danger, danger. Why are they like that? Well, in part because they're protecting jobs. So you have this whole culture in two different ways. One will be from unions that are hyper focused on protecting jobs, which I understand, and I love, and I'm not saying anything negative about unions. They got a good place in some areas, very very helpful years ago, and all that kind of stuff. But they're very hyper protective of jobs and what AI is going to do. And then again, your own culture. So if you're a leader and you're like, hey, AI is going to change nursing and we need to adopt this and adopt that, you're going to get a lot of pushback in your organization because wait, we're not structured like that. This is whole transformative change. And that's why, again, I go back to my primary thesis that it's if we are unwilling to bend and change and be sort of aggressive on this timeline, something new is going to come in and disintermediate healthcare as we know it today. That's my prediction. And it's companies like what Junaid is doing and Harvey, all the stuff that you're involved with. It's going to come in and offer a new alternative, and there's going to be early adopters, people like us that would jump on it, and eventually the masses will jump on it. So that's why nurse leaders who are watching, who are part of this, keep being that pioneer, keep pushing, band together, go to AI Med, things like that, and then start small. I know, Junaid, sorry, I'm kind of going now into the practical part because I'm always weary of just talking theory, but start small in your organization. Like no one believes you, okay, ask for a floor. I used to do that all the time with new technology. We'd be like, I'd always appeal to the chief nurse officer, give me a floor, and they always did. And then eventually I got a hospital. So, and that's how we sort of transformed one healthcare organization I was in, is what you start with a floor, like let's experiment, let's try some things, it's safe, in a safe environment, things like that. And then as we saw the success, then that floor became 2 floors, 3 floors. Eventually we got an entire hospital, and we did everything first in that hospital out of, a multiple hospital system, proved it, and then scaled it. And I think people who are listening right now, that's what you need to do. Otherwise, man, it's not going to be good for you. And I think my time horizon is 3 years. I don't think we're talking 10, 15 years. I think
yes, so true. And I have to reiterate it. The timelines are getting so shorter. I mean, I just showed you. I mean, Gemini 2.5 and Gemini 3 it's insane. Which brings us to the next question. Harvey, what do you think about DeepSeek and the China impact? They did a head-to-head comparison on the Seaport ABC. I didn't think so. You missed it, but it was insane, dude. I mean, DeepSeek was pretty darn on spot. As a matter of fact, at some point, I like the responses from DeepSeek more so than ChatGPT, and not to mention, DeepSeek open sourced its reasoning model, which we actually are testing with everything, weights and biases and everything, and I had full control over the code, which now begs to differ. Am I ever going to use ChatGPT, even Gemini, or rather just buy, $200,000 NVIDIA and then install my own DeepSeek and use it? So what do you see, especially when you are looking at phantom space, where you're going to put these GPUs in space? What is your sort of overall like macro level assessment of USA versus China in terms of building models?
Yeah, good question. So, for those people that are kind of touching this subject and understanding why DeepSeek was such a big deal, and there's some political stuff that's out there, but the skinny is this. AI, look at it this way, spent billions of dollars as a company in general to do what they need to do, and I say billions. They said millions to create their models, but DeepSeek was able to do it at a fraction of what ChatGPT did, OpenAI. And so why does this matter? Is that they were, in my opinion, able to take some of the leaders, what they did, and I personally think they were able to think of it as weights, and then come around because of the need of not having chips in China. They were able to think outside the box, create, and they created a model they claim for fractions of pennies. Now, the controversy is, did China actually give them money to do it or not? But putting that aside, they created a model that is very competitive, very good. And what he's asking is, how do we see this? Well, the fact that they did it disrupted the market. In fact, NVIDIA chips went down, a lot of valuations went down because of this. Why does it matter? It's because people like us, now we can use this model like Junaid's doing, and he can look at it and say, okay, what's the secret sauce? How do they do it? And now the cost is not billions or millions. It's literally, at times you can make this for hundreds of dollars. And so why does that matter? Because moving forward, if I could create the weights and I can put it on a phone and I could put it on smart devices and edge technology, or I could put it on a satellite or on a chip, now I'm able to bring down the cost. Now I'm able to do things at a really minimal cost. And in the future, I will be able to create applications. And so for me personally, working for Phantom Space, I'm literally working on this technology to put it on a satellite, to put it on a chip, to come up with applications that once that we have it in the atmosphere, then I can create those products for Earth and products that don't exist to change humanity. And so that's why it's such a big important deal. Ed, what do you think?
Yes, it certainly makes everything more accessible. And I was trying to cut and paste into the chat, but I for some reason wasn't able to make it happen. But I was listening to another podcast yesterday while I was driving between someplace, and it was really on. It had to do with China, not deep space specifically, but it had to do with sort of on the political macro level how we're all leveraging these different LLMs. And it used to be to the point that you were talking about. It used to be all about open AI, but obviously, there's multiple languages in the world, and it's not just English. And so it's very limited what you can get. And so these new language models are being developed at a macro scale that are in other languages and may surpass, the capabilities that we're all familiar of models that we're all familiar with today. And because the prices have come down, you can do it much cheaper, take advantage. That's always the issue, right? If you read like some of the Sentinel business books, where it's first mover's advantage. Well, sometimes it's a disadvantage being first mover. And so you see other companies come, they learn, they take things, improve, and come in and take things next level. So I think that's happening. I think we'll see other entrants into the space, and so that's why it goes back to what we've been saying. You got to keep educating yourself, stay on top of the game.
Well said. What I actually wanted to show you is actually it's part of my pitch deck. Why save life AI and compute costs collapse, and that's literally one of the things that I always keep saying is that for me to develop these super uh, complex workflows and determine which one's going to be, the only reason that I'm actually investing in it is because I now understand that how much compute costs. Because if you are building a startup for scale, you need to understand the cost curve, and if you're not getting the cost curve correct, you are in big trouble. Anyways, going to the next one, how workflow crisis, how AI is primed to help radiology. And that's a very good word. And this is by Nina Coco from and Radiology Partners, which, by the way, we had an interesting meeting with Save Life AI, and they pointed out a few things which we're working on. We'll see how it goes. But what I'm saying is that help radiology. Just to remind people again, by 2030, we're going to have a gap of 30,000 radiologists. With all this AI that we talk about all the time, we are looking at essentially still a gap. Again, reminder, 5 years ago, before the handheld ultrasound, which is 5,000 now, used to be 75,000. There used to be a whole committee sitting and then able to actually figure out if we're going to buy an ultrasound machine. While right now we get CME fund, we can just buy it through our CME fund right away and do ultrasounds at bedside. What I'm saying is that there is an explosion of radiological imaging studies while radiologists are going away. So, Harvey, another hard question for you. People keep saying that, and even right now, even Ginseng said that the radiology will be the one of the first fields in healthcare to go away because of AI. However, on the real world impact, we are still seeing that we're going to need significantly more radiologists. So, how do you square the two problems and help the audience understand again that AI is not replacing them, but actually you need to augment yourself with AI? Harvey, I think you're mute.
Great question. I think the following, we need to really understand this great shift that I talk about. We need to understand that what our skill set needs to shift. Again, if I stay traditional and I was like, here's my stethoscope and I'm a traditional doctor, I'm gonna stick my ways and this is the way I do life, then I'd be stuck in the past. Why does it matter? Because if I'm your doctor and I'm using a stethoscope and you're like, dude, you can't even hear anymore, Harvey, you're getting old, then I can put on a stethoscope that has AI that helped me hear back to what I used to hear, and now I can hear certain heart zones that tell me that you may be going into heart failure or valve is not working. But even better, if it has AI and it hears outside the human spectrum, now it knows what we don't know, and now it can hear things to say, you know what, this guy is about to have, he is having an arrhythmia that ears can't handle. So here's my point. I had to shift. I had to use my tools differently. I had to do things in a more efficient way to help my patients. And so that's what I'm telling you. Don't be scared of this technology. Learn to shift. Learn a new skill set. Ed.
No, right on. I think that's in our overall theme, really, right? Every meeting, I think we're out there as the sort of the canary in the coal mine. You know, hey, the change is coming, and we need to adapt. Yeah, but Harvey, I'm smiling because I think I may have shared this before, but if you go on an airplane today, and I do this every trip, so even last night, the fuselage was from 1975. On the door jamb of the plane, as you enter in, you'll see a little manufacturing plate. It'll say the date of the plane's made when it's made. Man, if the airline that you're flying is always using 60s and 70s fuselages, obviously they're modernizing the internal wiring. Well, you think they are. You're not sure though, because now they planted a seed. Wait, man, this airframe is 50 years old. Dang. I wonder how old the avionics are. Are they leveraging AI? Are they doing these things? Of course, it's hard to believe they are leveraging AI because every time you land, they're waiting for a gate. Wait, you didn't know that we were landing and you needed a gate to be available? We're not here to bash the airlines, but that's what I'm saying. So if I go to a physician and they're pulling out a stethoscope from what at least 100 years ago, it's like, what? Then it starts making me think, oh, they're not utilizing, or if they're not utilizing ambient AI, I'm out. I'm out. So yeah, I think for sure you need to modernize. You need to take advantage of all the latest and greatest, and don't be a laggard.
Clearly, from the response of healthcare consumer that you're listening here, that it is not even the hospitals, if they're not catching up, you need to push them.
Yeah,
and then or use it. Correct. Go ahead.
I'm doing it now, and I know people. Here's the other feedback. I know you two get the same thing, and I get it all the time. Well, yeah, but Ed, that's because you're technical, you're digital. I'm actually not. I am not a technical person, but I'm smart enough to know we need to take advantage of things. And so people say, Ed, you're an outlier. All these different beliefs, and other patients are not going to do that. Oh no, they are. They are going to go the same direction that we're all talking about here, because they're going to see the benefits of AI in their life in other areas, and then start questioning why their clinical team isn't doing the same, and they're going to make choices that they're not. So I'm already doing stuff, and we'll talk about it more later. I'm going to head to Buenos Aires now to take care of some stuff, because I know this clinician is leveraging AI. I've shared all my images. We'll talk about that some other day. But here's something else, Junaid, and only because it's top of mind, I'm going to take us off just a little bit. But I won't mention the sport or the stadium or the team, because I don't know that they want it to be public or what's been published on it. But yesterday, I had sort of this back room tour with some executives of a professional sports team. And of course, what were all my questions about? It wasn't like, oh, this is whose locker is this, and how does it work on game day? But we did go there, right, with AI and all that kind of stuff. But I was wondering about AI to enhance performance, and it's so advanced that they put a moratorium on AI capabilities of execution, because it would take away from the spirit of the game. So that's another topic we should consider, like, how does that apply to the clinical world? So if they allowed AI, the games, this could be all sports, the games would then become an AI game, and not down to the physical prowess, preparedness, strategy, all that kind of human dynamic dimension. I was like, wow, that's pretty thought-provoking. And how does that apply to healthcare? Maybe for some other time, but it happened yesterday, so it's just top of mind.
No, this is actually very interesting. By the way, just to let you know, FDA approves software as medical device class 2A and 2B that we developed at Save Life. We already have one approval. We have 3 already applied, and we have 2 more coming. What is the definition is called clinical decision support. And intentionally, we just, I mean, that's not intentionally, but what I'm saying is that we need to figure out where that line draws, because we don't want clinicians to get lazy either. Sunday, it's like, you know what, like, so it is a challenge for us founders to make sure that it remains a decision support and not a decision making. Do you understand that? And you brought in a perfect example that I'm telling you live that I have constant issues with when we are talking about these as we go along. Now, again, I want to re-emphasize that it was a very important topic. Developing AI for children is an extremely messy regulatory problem. Again, we have not tackled it for various reasons because of the cost prohibitance, but we really need to develop some of this for children as well. Interestingly, pediatricians are the least, unfortunately, least one of the lower sort of range of reimbursement, and they really need help. Again, same thing, behavioral health interventions from an AI powered perspective, literally changing behavior through AI notifications, etc., is a huge impact. We're seeing currently evidences that is going to support it, but unfortunately, again, FDA does not have a pathway for this, and we at Save Life AI prohibited from developing some of these things is because we don't know exactly where the financial pathway will lie and how it is going to go ahead. So now here's the kicker again as you go along, and we have talked about this. Again, I want to re-emphasize that you guys need to attend some of these meetings with us, because and hopefully support us, find us sponsors. We're going to bring this to what do you call that very soon. The question is the financial lifeline for healthcare, and this is again who's going to pay for it. And I keep saying that this is extremely important to understand, and how CMS, and I don't know if you looked at it, the new CMS guidelines, they just released the 2027, and there's some striking problems that healthcare is going to fix. And as a matter of fact, the way the reimbursement is going to work, I'm actually going to be okay. I mean, being self-serving, oh my God, this is perfect timing for Save Life AI, because either they're going to use AI or they're going to go bankrupt. But anyways, go ahead, Ed. Who should pay for AI in general? Like, this is and we're going to talk about US only for you, and Harvey's going to take the international perspective, and Ed, throw in your AI concierge perspective too.
Well, I'm glad. I'm not a big government person, but I was glad, the article that you showed, the government's involved, and I think sometimes the government has to uh, put out some motivation, help lead some research, to gather some of the brightest and best minds that we have, and really push things forward. So I'm a believer in that, and I'm glad to see that research taking place, and so I think that's always good. I don't think we should rely on that. I believe in a great public-private partnership. So I love to see, entrepreneurs, Junaid, like yourself, and Harvey, who are sort of leading the way. But it's good also to have government doing some things and pushing some things. So I think government's paying for some of it, but I think it can pay for itself, as we know. So we know companies, your companies, if you leverage the technology that you all have, not only do you improve clinical outcomes, but you improve financial outcomes. The lawyer example was a good, easy one. So I think so. It's a combination of who pays for it, but I think, if you don't do something, again, one of our key messages every week, if you don't do something, someone else is going to come in and do it at cheaper, better, and why not you? Why not you lead the way?
Harvey, international perspective, who should pay for it? And given, by the way, people forget he's actually AI advisor to Ministry of Health Singapore. So go ahead.
Yeah. So how do we pay for this? Or, who pays for it? Honestly, it's interesting being outside the United States. When I'm in Singapore, I'm seeing tons of money being invested and used, and they're really just jumping in. And they're paying and subsidizing. And then obviously startups are just jumping on it and doing the same. And why are they doing it? Singapore is an interesting beast in the sense that their population's getting old and older, more than the average in the United States, and because of their longevity, it's creating a stress on the product on the population because there's not enough doctors, and as a result, they're having to use AI. They're having to look at efficiency tools. When I was there a couple of months ago, it was really interesting. I got to walk through several blocks of what they're doing for health span and why that matters, but that's a whole other podcast. But the skinny is this: they're spending money, they're investing in their company, in their government, in their people. One of the other thing is talking about the great shift. Anyone over age 40, they're retraining. Yes, they're retraining you so that you can
Yes.
leverage AI.
As a
Uh,
government policy,
yes,
that's where government is important, by the way, Ed. They need to somehow do this. Go ahead. Sorry, Harvey.
yeah, yeah. And then on the healthcare side, I was recently speaking in Dubai, and I thought, oh my gosh, and we can talk about digital twins. They're really pushing digital twins. They're using technology. They are really saying, okay, from for a nation, for them, they're dependent on oil. How do we get rid of this oil? How do we start creating different incomes using? And they're really going into technology and AI and building satellites, and they're doing all this other industry because they have the cash to invest, and they're really investing heavily in this.
Dude, I had 10 installations in Qatar already planned. We have five going on. We have 10 more. I cannot use the names right now, but there are some very big names that are going to come in for Save Life AI in Qatar and much faster. Like the deals are closing in 6 weeks. Over here, I have to take 6 weeks to get a freaking appointment with a radiologist. So, I mean, the gap is so huge in terms of urgency of this, and they realize it. And again, I remind you that there are 500 radiologists in Dallas and 500 radiologists in the whole continent of Africa. So needs are very different. But what I'm saying is that we are going to see this, and then we're going to move towards essentially causing this a significant shift. Um, I think we should reach out to Nina Coker and then go from there. Now, the last topic, I know we are a little over time, but I just is very important and dear to me. And this is again building trustworthy AI infrastructure. And this is where we talked about, internally, and we can just say it like we were planning another freaking startup together. What I'm saying is that the AI governance piece is extremely important, and not just understanding the governance piece, because that's one part. Which, by the way, Sherry is amazing, and we all are very respectful to her to bring us all in the fold as well. But more importantly, connecting it to the ROI, like I shared with Ed and Harvey, an internal document. But what I'm saying is that how to operationalize AI governance and AI decision making. That is one of the key problems, in my opinion, that hospital systems have to solve. Again, even finding time to get an appointment is becoming hard. So uh, let's start with Ed first, because Ed, you have been in that decision making. You are in that decision making. You're part of like what, four boards now, and then of course going back to Harvey. From an international perspective on top, like why is their decision making faster as compared to here? So go ahead.
Yeah, it's people are always concerned about federal bureaucracy. I'm always like, hey, that's nothing compared to your own internal bureaucracy. And obviously we're not naming names, and but I think generally, and I just share this to know that I'm not just making this stuff up. I'm part of this. I see it on a weekly basis where there's so much bureaucracy internally to most organizations that not much gets done or doesn't move at speed that it needs to. And that, again, that's why the disruptors will come in, because while we're still trying to sit around, try to make a decision, people are going to come in. So it's you have to be nimble and agile. And so what I always say is, you got to take more risk. You got to take more calculated risk, and you got to move with speed and intentionality. Otherwise, you will be disrupted. So you really have to look on how you make these decisions, your governance process, make it much more agile, leverage AI in it, and that way you can get up to speed and move forward. So I would take like a serious look at what happens internally and what slows things down. Like you meet once a month. What? You're gonna wait a month? That's like 10 years in AI world. And then you meet once a month for an hour, and that's the only time people actually look at materials. We all know how the bureaucracy, because everyone's so busy. So we got to radically change how we do it.
We do, and I think a software solution is needed. so that they can do. To be honest with you, it's a very good saying, right? A meeting can be an email can be a text, and a text can never be needed to be sent. So that's exactly. I mean, you have one meeting a week. That's it. Everything else is, offline. We, record videos, send it to each other throughout the company. We have decreased so much, and then we have empowered my whole C-suite. The vision chief AI officer of the vision can talk to the chief AI officer of the NLP and get shit done and not wait for me. So, anyways, keep going, Harvey.
So this will stab a question in the comments. How do you see AI changing the patient-doctor relationship for the next 5 years? And answers your question. See, I see it as a food label for our AI. It'll be a common thing. You go to the hospital. I was like, hey, I want to see what AI is being used, and then you get a food label equivalent that shows you what AI models, the pros, the cons, the biases, and the key is we're being transparent. And if we're not transparent with our patients of how we're using this technology, then it won't be accepted. And so I truly think we'll have a Bill of Rights, but it'll be more of the AI rights and what's there and how to use it, and it'll be very transparent. So I see that. And then to answer real quick, the 5-year relationship, transparency, and it'll give us a better care. If you watch my TED Talks, I have 5 of them. One of them talks about being proactive in medicine instead of reactive. And in 5 years, I truly think we'll be at a proactive point where these wearables and all this stuff will say, hey, Harvey, you didn't sleep last night. Dude, you shouldn't be on stage right now. Hey, give yourself a nap today, because if not, you're going to push yourself for cancer in the future. Or, hey, you're getting old, Harvey, so you need that extra sleep. And all those wearables will help. Ed.
Yeah, I agree, and I kept having. I should have been taking notes and making my point. Oh, here's my point. In all of this, I think the other mistake we're making is we're holding AI to a standard that we're not holding each other to today. So every time I'm in these conversations, people are like, AI, well, what about this? What about that? And I'm like, what? We're freaking killing 100,000 people a year in our hospitals. So tell me, that there are going to be some casualties, right? There are a lot of casualties today. I think there's going to be a lot less if we embrace this. But people are using that as an excuse not to go forward. And I think that's a travesty. So I always ask people in these conversations, it's like, wait a second. I get it. You're a little afraid that what if this, what if that? Well, what's happening today with people using their own judgment? We're all fallible.
With that amazing note, we are going to see people, that transition always is hard. Continuous learning is important. AI will transform. It is the great shift of our time. Follow us. We're going to be, adding more and more people soon. Help us bring these amazing conferences to Dallas itself to create an environment of continuous learning here in Dallas. Let us know if you have anything to add. Sponsor us, whatever that case may be. We'll be extremely grateful. Thank you so much for joining our live, and we will put this on our recorded channels as well. Have a nice day.